The United States' strike on Iran is getting closer, and more signs indicate that the decision has already been made. Meanwhile, shocking news is emerging. There may be around 20,000 people killed in Iran. The United States Department of State has urged Americans to urgently leave Iran. Donald Trump publicly called on Iranian protesters to seize government buildings and stated that help is already on the way. At the same time, right at this very hour, the United States of America began evacuating hundreds of soldiers from its largest airbase in the Middle East, Al Udeid, which is located in Qatar. In June 2025, during the 12-day war between Iran and Israel, this was the main harbinger of the United States bombing attack on Iran. At the same time, Trump imposes 25% tariffs against all countries trading with Iran, including China. And this is where something unexpected happens. Remember how, just before this, China, Russia, and Iran began high-profile joint naval military exercises. So, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa urgently called on the Iranian ships to leave these exercises. In fact, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa retroactively excluded Iran from the military exercises as if they were never there. In this way, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa is saying, let's not provoke Donald Trump. And now Bloomberg sources are saying that Vladimir Putin's team has decided not to get involved in the situation in Iran at all. Putin decided that it's better to sacrifice Ali Khamenei's regime in Iran than to completely break ties with Donald Trump over this. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave any comment under this episode, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link is in the description. And if you find this episode useful and interesting, at the end of the episode, you can support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the links and details provided. In the description of this video, it says support the channel Alexei Pechi. Choose any format that is convenient for you. I will be grateful for any support you provide. So, there are more and more signs that the United States of America will soon strike Iran after all. Right now, the Americans have begun evacuating hundreds of soldiers from their largest airbase in the Middle East, Al Udeid, which is located in Qatar. In particular, the servicemen are being urgently transferred to other facilities or accommodated in hotels around the region. This way, they want to protect them from possible threats in case a potential United States strike on Iran provokes retaliatory actions from Tehran. At the same time, the government of Qatar has already confirmed and stated that personnel are being withdrawn from the military base, quote, in response to the current regional tensions. The statement from the Qatari authorities emphasizes that they will take all necessary measures to ensure the safety and protection of their citizens and residents as a priority. But it should be noted that earlier, United States President Donald Trump promised very decisive measures against Iran if the Iranian authorities also start executing protesters. Today, Iran is preparing to execute its first protester. However, there's an important but perhaps less obvious point. Let me remind you, in June of last year, American servicemen were already withdrawn in exactly the same way as today from the Al Udeid airbase. This happened right before the Pentagon's operation against Iranian uranium enrichment facilities. Let me remind you, they were bombed, and after that, Iran retaliated by attacking the Al Udeid airbase specifically. At that time, the United States carried out the evacuation basically at the last moment, and when it became known that the evacuation was underway literally within a few hours, the United States struck Iran. At the same time, back on January 13, the United States urged its citizens to leave Iran immediately, recommending that they consider leaving by land to Turkey or Armenia, since air travel was not possible. Moreover, on the eve of these events, United States President Donald Trump called on Iranians protesting against the clerical regime of the Ayatollahs to expand their demonstrations and seize government institutions, and also promised the protesters help from Washington. And next, I'll give you a striking quote from Donald Trump. Iranian patriots, keep protesting, seize your institutions, remember the names of the killers and rapists, they will pay a heavy price. I have cancelled all meetings with Iranian officials until the senseless killings of protesters stop. Help is already on the way. Let's make Iran great again. Before that, the American president, let me remind you, stated that he is considering very tough options against the Ayatollah regime, which, as he says, is crossing red lines by killing protesters. Here, some truly shocking news emerges. According to the latest data from Iranian authorities, at least 2,000 people have already died during the suppression of protests. Once again, that's 2,000 protesters killed, and this is according to the Ayatollah regime. At the same time, Columbia Broadcasting System News, citing British intelligence and sources in Tehran, reports that during the mass demonstrations by Iranians that have swept all provinces of the country and their brutal suppression by regime forces, up to 20,000 people may have died. That is 10 times more than what the authorities have officially stated. Human rights activists gathered information on the deceased from nationwide medical worker reports. But in recent days, Iranian security forces have been conducting raids on private hospitals throughout Tehran, demanding that staff hand over the names and addresses of protesters being treated in clinics so they can take reprisals against them. That's why activists have essentially lost access to everyone. At the same time, the opposition television channel Iran International reported that around 12,000 people have died during the protests. Well, be that as it may, on Tuesday, a video appeared on social media showing the bodies of more than 400 Iranians who died during the protests, piled up in a morgue in the suburbs. In other words, in just one morgue in the suburbs of Tehran, more than 400 bodies of the deceased were counted. What can give us an idea of the real scale of the repression? Moreover, the Ayatollah's regime has announced that in the coming days it will begin public executions of protesters. Donald Trump then cancelled negotiations with Iran, even though Iran had requested talks with the United States the day before to ease tensions. Trump first agreed, then refused, and threatened to strike Iran. The American military now appears to be preparing for just that in the Middle East. Here, an interesting episode came up about how Russians actively help their allies. I'll say right away, this is sarcasm. What happened? The day before, Donald Trump announced that he is imposing 25% tariffs against countries that cooperate with Iran. And before that, China, Russia, and Iran announced the start of military exercises near South Africa. Near Iran, Beijing and Moscow wanted to show unity with Tehran. But when the United States announced additional tariffs, that very Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa group asked Iran to refrain from active participation in the Will to Peace 2026 exercises and to withdraw its ships. Iran was offered observer status and Iran agreed. 2 Iranian warships that had already arrived at the main naval base of the Republic of South Africa, Simonstown, will now be withdrawn. Before the exercises begin, China leads the drills, joined by warships from Russia, the United Arab Emirates, and other regional countries. Iran was just told to leave and not interfere. These allies wanted to appear united, claiming, "We are holding military exercises with Iran." Trump says, "Fine, go ahead, but here's a 25% tariff. And Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which was created as a counterbalance to the Americans, says, "Listen, Iranians, could you please leave here? We are not with you. Please withdraw your ships." Well, just so you don't draw unnecessary attention, of course we support you, we're on your side, but publicly, please leave here, come on, and the Iranians leave. And there you have it. Bloomberg writes that Vladimir Putin does not plan to provide significant support to the Ayatollah regime in Iran, which is facing a wave of nationwide protests and the threat of military inflation. According to Bloomberg, citing sources, the Kremlin will most likely limit itself to expressing public support for Iran, with whom it signed a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement just a year ago, which literally came into force in October. In fact, Putin has already shown twice in recent months that he doesn't really care about yesterday's allies. In December 2024, the regime of Bashar Adamov fell. In early January 2026, Nicolas Maduro was captured, whom Moscow had supplied with weapons and money, spending almost $20 billion over the past 10 years. Moreover, Moscow did not provide significant support to Iran either during the American strikes on nuclear facilities or during the 12-day war with Israel in June 2025. And now Bloomberg sources say that Vladimir Putin is currently trying to improve relations with Donald Trump. And the loss of the Ayatollah regime in Iran may be seen as collateral damage, nothing more. I'll leave it at that. Subscribe to the channel, write your opinion and your conclusions about this story in the comments, and don't forget to support this channel with your donation. If you found this episode helpful, that's all for now. Take care everyone, goodbye.